Hello, my name's Keith Palmer. I work for Psomas, and today I am going to talk about street sweeping notification application that we developed in conjunction with Streets LA. The background on this is that Streets LA had a mandate about 2 years ago to modernize the agency and to create a true world-class organization. And Streets LA hired Psomas to help modernize the technology they were using, specifically with asset management and GIS. And up to that point, they had been using just ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro to edit file geodatabases, and they were using ArcGIS Online. You see here, the graphic on the right is the street routes that they have published out on ArcGIS Online. Also, all their asset information, maintenance scheduling, pretty much everything they did was all stored in Google Sheets and documents. So, not an enterprise system at all. And just they would update the sheets with the asset information or the work they had done. So that was a big reason to try to get into a work asset management system. And so now they have ArcGIS Enterprise in AWS. I set that up for them, and they have a dev, test, and production environment. And also they have two SDE instances out there, one in test and one in production. And as of right now, they're currently implementing Cartograph. So they are really busy right now getting everything set up and loaded into Cartograph. The street sweeping notification application itself was started by Streets LA. Leo Yang started the application. And it was kind of a low-hanging fruit thing that they wanted to show that they were moving toward a modern web-based application, and also something that would help the residents with timely information. In this case, avoiding a $73 parking ticket. So they wanted to have something out there that would immediately show that they were moving toward new technology. This form here on the right was the initial form that they were using. Let me flip over to this. That is on this page right here, but they also have developed a dashboard in ArcGIS Online to help with that as well. Because people were entering in their addresses here, but they weren't standardized and they needed something else. So they used this dashboard that allowed users to zoom in, maybe click on the map, get their location, get the address, and then be able to copy that over from that side over to here to have a standardized address, one that actually would work. Notice they had to copy from over here to over here. It's a dashboard. There's no interconnectivity between them, but it works pretty well. Go back over. So Leo first developed this as a C#.NET web application. And so it would geocode the addresses to get the XY coordinate from a REST endpoint. Then he would submit it to another REST endpoint to extract the route information from the street sweeping layer. Then he would store that in a database and send a notification out through Gmail, through their business Gmail account. Well, that was kind of a problem because Gmail only allows you to send out 2,000 emails a day, and they had a lot more they had to send out. So we had been helping them with a lot of other technology issues, and they liked our work. So they asked us to come up with a different solution. I kind of look at the application, see if there was any way to optimize it, and then also develop a technical strategy that would help with mass notification citywide. What we came up with was recommendation for Everbridge. That's the mass communication application website. It's well-known, well-established. Quite a few cities, city, state, county governments use it, as well as private companies. We had used it before for other clients and it had worked well. Also, the city had already a subscription for it. Just Streets LA hadn't known about it. So that worked out well. and they have a really robust REST API that we could use, and also good reporting functionality. On the right here, this graphic actually I grabbed from this morning when the notification process was going out. As you can see there, street sweeping 24-hour notice going at 9:44, and there's 6,200 at that point. This was continually updating with the routes that, notifications that were going out. Also within the manager, you can click on reports and then see if there are any rejections. So if a email was sent out and it was rejected because it was not a valid email, that would come up on reports. So you can use that to verify accounts. Another benefit was that we'd be able to use the existing application that Leo had already developed, just integrating in the Everbridge tools. And then I recommended that instead of using REST endpoints, if possible, use SQL Spatial. I use that quite a bit and is extremely fast and really relatively easy to use if you have access to the database to use it. So the process was that they enter in the address and information on that form that I showed you, and they press submit. So then now it goes out and does that geocoding to get the XY coordinate, and that record is loaded into a table in the SQL database. Then a stored procedure is run that populates the route information using SQL Spatial. It's on the database, two databases are on the same server, so it just queries the SDE database that has the route information, and within milliseconds gets back the results instead of 1 to 2 seconds that it typically will take to send out to a REST endpoint. Then at the end, that the user contact, they're called contacts in Everbridge, is pushed through the REST API into the Everbridge database, so that contact, that person, is loaded in there. The application is run once a day to send out the notifications. So I showed you on that manager, it was manager interface. It was happening that morning, and it does a 24-hour and 48-hour notice. And what it does is it goes and reads from the street sweeping database those users, those people who have registered, that, and it looks at the schedule, and then it sends out those messages based on the notification interval. The message is sent through the Everbridge REST API in JSON format. Each contact, and it uses external ID, a unique ID that is in both the street sweeping database and Everbridge. It's that external ID that is the common identifier. Everbridge doesn't use a username or anything like that. Really, all it uses is that ID and either the email address or the phone number for voice, or the phone for text. And what residents will get is a message like this. And this is customized based on their name that was in the database. So that is how we were able to customize a message for each user, is by creating a custom message within the application and sending that up through the Everbridge JSON. As you can see here, we can't have any pictures on here, but we can have hyperlinks that they can click on to take them to the map and show the route. Also, Leo added an additional functionality that allows them to unsubscribe or modify their notifications. And it's all based on the email address and the access code. So you have to have both to be able to get in and modify things. The challenges we faced on this, the Everbridge manager is pretty limited. It's very easy to add in contacts. You can load them in from a CSV file. It just has to follow a specific format. You also can add in custom fields in there. And so we were thinking originally, load the contact, populate the custom field with the routes, and send out the message. But you cannot pull anything from manager from those custom fields. And plus, it would be just a generic message. So that's why we ended up going with the REST API. The API is incredibly robust, incredibly complex, and incredibly undocumented. That it was the biggest problem. trying to figure out the JSON to use to send. So Everbridge does have a document they call the REST API guide, but it has only a few examples. And really, you have to kind of interpolate from what's there and what to use. So if we look at this in here, this is their Everbridge's API. And this is actually really handy because you can use this to test your JSON before you attempt to code it in. And so what you can do is just, here we have the notification. We can go try it out and we put in our authorization header and our organization ID. Then you can start editing the JSON. Well, as you can see here, there is a lot here. And most of this isn't needed. But how do you know what is needed other than taking it out? Because like delivery paths, that's undocumented. We don't know what to go in there and you go, oh, let's click on the model. What's there? Well, guess what? No descriptions. You know, so you go in, you go, well, I want to look at the message. What do I need in message? Well, you need the count ID and actually only one or two of these, but again, completely undocumented. So that right there was what we found to take the majority of the time, just attempting to figure out that API and how to construct the JSON to submit the messages. Other than that, it works great. Other limitations we found were some of the fields were limited to 255 characters. So this right here, where that it has the route and the time and intersection and so on, that's actually limited to 255 characters. And some users, we found out after we pushed it out to the public, was that they were selecting 10, 12, 15 routes. And if they were all on the same day, then suddenly that field would get filled and they couldn't use it. So we had to work around that. And then the SMS text messages, they're limited to 160 characters. And we originally had text messaging working and running, but then, you know, the lawyers got involved and now they're still, for the city, involved, and now they're trying to figure out how they can make a concise message within those 160 characters. Another challenge we had was the schedule, in that the routes are structured on the second, you know, like the second week or the second Thursday, second Wednesday, first Monday, things like that. And so those don't fall on specific dates, and they might not fall on specific weeks. You look here, and the first Thursday is in the first week. But then if you go to May, it's actually the second week. So figuring out the logic to actually send the messages out on the right day was pretty complex, but eventually we figured it out.
Okay.
So the outcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're at the 5 minute, but it looks like you're closing out. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, I have it time. I have it timed. Gotcha. So the outcome on this was that the initial release was in April 2021. And now there are over almost 39,000 users. Odds are by the end of this week, we'll be up there. 2.1 million notifications have gone out. Streets LA, I just found this out as I was making the presentation, has made up a Esri story map with all the documentation on how to use the application. And Information Technology Agency, the citywide IT department for the city, is using the lessons learned in this to help set up citywide mass notifications, not just for the public, but also internally. So if emergencies happen, they can, they have these already set up. They have the code and know how to send out these messages. So in the future, they want to get that text messaging. This is near future is the text messages. They're close, but they're still trying to figure out the text with the legal saying, you have to have this in here, developer saying, I don't have the room, back and forth. So they're still sorting that out. They want us to be able to send the messages in different languages. They want to have dynamic updates of the sweeping schedules sent out, not only to the residents, but also to parking enforcement. Because if it's been swept early, or it's not going to be swept at all. They want to have that message sent out to parking enforcement saying, hey, don't write any tickets. They're working on that. They're working on a standardized customer portal for notifications, and that is for everything, just sidewalk repair, tree trimming, road closures, repaving. If you sign up, they want to have that linked in with cartographs. So triggers and cartograph send that, will trigger that to send the notifications out. And that's really all about the public engagement, letting the residents know what they're doing, how these messages can get out to them so they're informed, they can change their schedules or parking if a street's going to be closed, and also just to show them what's being done. You know, where are their tax dollars going? So that is where it started and where they're going. So questions?